Recently in Hanoi, the General Statistics Office, Ministry of Planning and Investment, held a conference to announce the official results and summation of the 2019 Population and Housing Census. Vương Đình Huệ, head of the Central Population and Housing Census Steering Committee, chaired the conference. The information gathered from the Population and Housing Census is reliable, important, and useful evidence to make the planning for socio-economic development policies of the country. The results of this official published data will continue to provide additional information on the population situation, demographics, population quality, and people's living conditions in a more complete and detailed manner. The 2019 Population and Housing Census is the largest census, totaling nearly 12,000 census steering committees, over 78,000 members from central to local levels, about 147,000 statistic enumerators and levels of supervision, survey of over 96 million people living in over 26 million households, the first application of the information technology in the deployment stages of the census.
Greetings from Sharing Viet Nam on VTC10 Network. Recently, the 2019 census data was published. So what are the key findings, the key figures in this census, and what are the recommendations from the international organizations like the UNFPA? In today's show, we have a conversation with Ms. Kitahara, the UNFPA representative in Viet Nam. Thank you for joining our interview today. The first question is, what are your comments on the results of the 2019 census disseminated in recent days?
I think there are quite a few critical elements which one would have to take note of in looking at the census data. First, in the area of fertility, now Vietnam's fertility level is slightly under the replacement level, but it's been stabilized, and so that's one important issue. Second issue is with regard to mortality. There has been very good and steady progress in reducing maternal mortality as well as infant mortality and under 5 mortality. So both maternal and child mortality have declined steadily, so that's very good. And so then people definitely live longer. And also, given the fertility decline, this means that the Vietnamese aging society is progressing fast. And that has an implication on the government's policies and programs. Much more attention has to be taken care of, looked at in formulating public policies to take care of older people's needs. And this is not at all a bad thing, because this is also an opportunity, and also, they can continue to contribute to the country's economy and society. But also the industry can be developed for the services and care for the elderly. So there are many opportunities. And one issue which we would like to really request the country to pay more attention to, and that is sex selection at birth, because at the moment, and the census confirms that the ratio between boys and girls at the time of birth have not been balanced. And we have a strong suspect that prenatal sex selection based on strong cultural some preference element is persisting, and the government has done a very good job of putting in place legal and policy frameworks to discourage sex selection, gender-based sex selection, and also even penalize those actions. But that implementation of such legal and policy element is an important one, and so that we can actually change people's mind to value girls as good as boys. So that's one important element to take care of.
So in general, what is the role of UNFPA in the population and housing census?
Our support for census also has evolved quite a deal. When we started in the first census in 1979, our role was more to do with providing equipment and providing training and so forth. But since that the country has progressed, now the Vietnam is a middle income country, and also experience and knowledge have been gained over the last decades, and capacities have been built to have a very good data collection, especially for census and also other surveys. Our role now is to make sure that the census is conducted to the international standards. And also we do our best to try to make sure that the statisticians as well as the trainers and the leaders of conducting census are exposed to international practices and advances, because even at the international level, technologies and also methodologies have progressed quite a bit. So our role is to bring in such international expertise, international knowledge, and so that Vietnam census can be conducted with the quality which we can get the best.
The official results of the population and housing census shows that Vietnam's total population is more than 96.2 million people, in which the male population is 49.8% and the female population is 52.8%. Vietnam is the third most populous country in Southeast Asia after Indonesia and the Philippines, and the 15th in the world. After 10 years, the size of Vietnam's population increased by 10.4 million. The average annual population growth rate in the period of 2009 and 2019 is 1.14% per year, a slight decrease compared to the period of 1999 to 2009, which was 1.18% per year.
Thì chúng ta thấy là hiện nay chúng ta đang ở trong thời kỳ dân số vàng, và cái già hóa dân số cũng rất là nhanh. Đồng thời qua cái tổng điều tra dân số nhà ở nó cũng phản ánh cho một loạt những cái bất cập trong cái chính sách dân số, trong cái cơ cấu dân số, trong các cái tỷ lệ, trong các cái chỉ tiêu phản ánh chuyên sâu về dân số. Thì điều đó nó sẽ ngụ ý cho Tổng thống kê phải phân tích chuyên sâu, rồi thì báo cáo và tư vấn cho chính phủ, cho các bộ ngành có liên quan.
Thì toàn bộ số liệu dân số với nhà ở này đã được cập nhật sử dụng để xây dựng, chính phủ xây dựng cái đề án phát triển kinh tế xã hội vùng miền núi và dân tộc, phát triển bền vững kinh tế xã hội. Và vừa rồi trình ra Quốc hội khóa kỳ họp vừa rồi thì đã được thông qua với một tư cách là một chương trình mục tiêu quốc gia thứ 3 của Việt Nam. Sau chương trình mục tiêu quốc gia là xây dựng nông thôn mới và giảm nghèo bền vững, thì Quốc hội đã chấp nhận cái đề xuất của chính phủ.
The population density of Vietnam is about 290 people per square meter, an increase of 31 people per square meter compared to 2009. The Red River Delta and Southeast are the two regions with the highest population density nationwide, corresponding to 1,060 people per square meter and 757 people per square meter. The Northern Midlands and Mountains and Central Highlands are the two regions with the lowest population density, respectively 132 people per square meter and 107 people per square meter.
So how does UNFPA support GSO of Vietnam in the 2019 census?
Right. So now that the census has been conducted and then disseminated yesterday at the national level, much more dissemination efforts will be done in 2020 because it's very important that the data does not just sit in a shelf. This is there to be used for policy making, decision making, so that the country is making critical decisions based on evidence. So that's one of the items in 2020. Also in 2020, and as a usual practice, census monographs will be prepared, which means that we jointly pick up a few critical topics for a bit more analysis and using the census data set, and so that we can better understand what is going on. Aging is one of them. What is exactly happening and what are the implications on the elderly. And it's not actually just on the elderly. This is a life cycle approach. So what are the implications on young people? What are the implications on the people at the working age? So what are the implications as a country as a whole? So a set of monographs will be developed in the year 2020.
So what are your comments on the preparation of the GSO of Vietnam for the 2019 census?
I think they did a very good job, and of course there is a master plan to conduct the census, and then that includes not only the data collection but then also training, pre-testing, how we use the information technology, what are the methodologies of putting the information together, and verifications and cross-checking. And then I think GSO has done a really good job. And not only the quality but also the speed of doing so. And so their efforts have been really commendable. And then I have to also take note of the leadership and guidance provided by the Census Steering Committee, chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister. So that is a very important element, because it means that the country's leadership is taking this very seriously, and the country's leadership is looking at the census undertakings as one of the top political agenda, and that gives a very good motivation and morale for everybody who is involved in the census, and that's the essence for success of this time's census.
So how will the census contribute to Vietnam's efforts to fulfill the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals to ultimately leave no one behind?
You know, this census has a new elements. For instance, and it's not just the standardized element of census, which is basically fertility, mortality, and migration, but also this census included other informations like education, ethnic minority groups, disabilities issues, employment issues, as well as housing conditions issues. So, you know, a short questionnaires as well as long questionnaires were prepared, and to go a little bit deeper of what is happening in the country. And I always say, if we look at the countries in the world, countries which have a solid and reliable data set are the one who gets developed. So without data, there is no development. And so having this very good quality data from the 2019 census is one of the very good indicators for Vietnam's future success in economic and social development.
The census data is very important to Vietnam, so how important is it to UNFPA and other UN agencies?
First and foremost, the census, this is a critical element for the country. But also data will be used for international comparison, and now we have only 10 years left to achieve sustainable development goals, and census provides direct information to measure 15% of the SDGs indicators, and that's a really significant portion. And also the census data provides the denominators of other SDGs indicators. So when we are conducting international comparison, that really gives the standardized way of comparing different countries in the region and in the world. So that's one element. Other element is for the international community, including the UN agencies and the UNFPA, is that it gives us an opportunity to think what are the areas which we need to really focus on in supporting Vietnam, and what are the international programs and the support assistance which have to be brought in to Vietnam. So that's why I always say data is the power, because without data we cannot do that analysis, we cannot do that advocacy work.
Once again, thank you for joining us and for your sharings today.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for this episode of Sharing Vietnam today. For comment and feedback, don't hesitate to write to us at sharingvietnam@netvietTV.net. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.